Okay, now, when we're talking about adding integers, we're talking about adding positive and negative numbers, okay? The way you need to look at things is this way. When you're adding positive and negatives, of course, right now we're just talking about integers, and so we're just talking about whole numbers, okay? But you need to look at positives are like our positive signs. Negatives are like negatives. Now, just like in science, protons, if I remember right, protons and neutrons cancel each other out, right? Positive protons, neutrons sort of cancel each other out. Okay. Well, they do. Okay. Well, math is the same way. The positive and the negative cancel each other out. A positive charge and a negative charge cancel each other out. All right? Now, understanding that can help you understand the rules for adding and adding positive and negative integers. For example, if I had negative 8 plus 7. Now, once again, the book is going to, write it like that. They're going to have the negative sign in front of the 8, and they're going to have the positive sign in front of the 7. If you write it that way, I don't care. Okay, obviously we care about where the negative is, but you don't necessarily have to put the positive sign. But what it's basically saying then is this. It's saying over here I have 7 positives. On the other side, I have 8 negatives. Now, if every positive cancels out a negative, or the other way around, then here's what happens. Okay? And that means I am left with one negative sign. And so the answer to this problem is -1. Okay? Now, if I have this type of problem, let's say I had -11 plus -3. Okay? -11 plus -3. Well, over here then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 negative signs. Over here I have 3 negative signs. Okay? Negatives don't cancel out negatives. The only thing that cancels each other is a positive and a negative cancel each other. So, then I have 3 negative signs here, 11 there, so what's my total number of negative signs? 14. So my answer is -14. Okay? So, the rule is this. When you're adding integers, okay, when you're adding integers to negative integers is always a negative answer. Okay? All right, we need to talk about absolute values. Okay? So this is really rule number 1. This is really rule number 2. Now, I want to dig into my wallet here.
Oh, make it rain on me, Coach.
Now, if I was to give this to Jesse, I don't trust Jesse. If I was going to give this to Noah,
Noah stole my pen. No, I didn't.
personal problem. If I gave that to Noah, okay, now, Noah is pretty positive about that. But if I took it away, Noah's pretty negative about that. Now, Tristan, did what this $20 could buy, did the value of this bill change regardless of whether I gave it to him or took it away? No. It's still worth $20. Okay? It's worth $20. To somebody, it's worth a positive $20. Okay? Whether I took it from Noah and then I gave it to somebody to buy something, or I bought something with it, okay, it's still worth $20. Whether you give it or whether you take it, whether it's a positive 20 or a negative 20, the absolute value of this dollar bill is 20. That's what it's worth. Okay? That is what absolute value is. Absolute value is the absolute value of the number you're looking at. Okay? So, I want you to write this down for absolute value. Absolute value, first of all, the absolute value is the number of units okay? Absolute value is the number of units a number is from 0 on the number line. Okay? So, for example, if I draw a number line, just a short number line here, and I put 0 right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. Okay? If I look at positive 3, how many units is 3, positive 3, away from 0? 3 units. 1, 2, 3 units. Okay? How many units is negative 3 from 0? 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the absolute value, and how you write the absolute value of negative 3 is with our 2 lines on either side of the number, the 2 vertical lines, and that is equal to 3. This right here is red. You read it, the absolute value of negative 3. That's how you read what I've highlighted in yellow. The answer to that is 3. Now, the absolute value of positive 3 is still 3. That's the absolute value signs. That's how you denote or symbolize absolute value, is with the 2 vertical lines. Okay? So this right here means absolute value. Okay? Now, second thing about absolute value. The absolute value of a number is always positive. Okay, the absolute value of any number is always positive. Okay, so let me go back to our original problem that we talked about. -8 plus +7. Okay, I'm going to write it just like the book does. Okay, here I have a negative and a positive integer. So what I'm supposed to do is I am supposed to take the absolute value of both numbers. Okay, well, the absolute value of -8 and +7. That's what I have to do here. What is the absolute value of -8? 8. Minus, I'm going to subtract their absolute values. Minus the absolute value of 7, which is 7. What is 8 minus 7? 1. Now, the larger absolute value okay, the larger absolute value, so which would have more value? Taking away $8 or giving $7? Now, I'm not saying which would you prefer, okay, I'm saying which has more buying power, the $8 or the $7? $8. So, which sign? This sign right here is with the larger absolute value, so I bring it down. And that's your answer. Now, it is just like the positive and negatives that we did at the first. The problem is this. Eventually you're going to have numbers like, for example, what if we had -99 plus 48? Okay? Well, it would take too long for you to write out 99 negative signs and 48 positive signs and then start canceling them out. Okay? So you've got to understand the rule and the property that is behind what we were talking about when we had the negatives and the positives. Okay? The book uses red circles and yellow circles instead of positive and negatives. Okay? And what they say basically is the red ones cancel out the yellow ones, so how many do you have left? I prefer to use positive and negatives. But the actual rule, and it doesn't matter if the problem looked like this. If the problem looked like that, it's still the same thing. Okay? Because of our commutative property of addition, doesn't matter if the positive comes first or the negative comes first. Now, how that would change it would be down here. We'd always do that, because always the larger absolute value number goes first. Okay? We don't put the 7 first. We don't do this. Okay? That is not correct. You don't do that. It's the larger absolute value sign. Okay? Celine, did you have a question? You're subtracting their absolute values. You're not subtracting 8 minus 7 just, number-wise. You're subtracting their absolute values. Okay? Let's look at another one. Let's say I had this. -9 plus +9. Okay? Think in your head. Okay? Think in your mind. Visualize. You've got 9 negatives and you got 9 positives. Okay? So does one of the two have more than the other? No. Okay? So it's going to end up, the 9 negative signs are going to cancel out the 9 positive signs, leaving me with 0. Okay? Now, the reason being is because of this. We take the absolute value of those two numbers. The absolute value of negative 9 is 9. The absolute value of positive 9 is 9. And we subtract the absolute values. You subtract okay? 9 minus 9 is 0. 0 is neither negative or positive. It's just 0. So the answer to that is 0. That is mathematically why it is 0. Okay? Now, let's look at another problem. Let's say I had this, negative 1 plus negative 2. Well, that's real easy to go ahead and do our little signs. Negative, 1, 2 negatives. So when you have two negative signs, you simply add up the numbers. What is 1 plus 2? 3. And I keep the negative sign. And that's it. Okay? Let's say we had this. 4 plus negative 3. So once again, this one I can go ahead and do this. Okay, well it's obvious, Tristan, that these are going to cancel each other out. Oh, why it keeps happening. And you have that. And so that's 1 positive, so your answer is 1. Now, mathematically, why that is true is because you would take the absolute value of those two numbers and subtract their absolute values. 4 minus 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. The larger one is positive, so it is a positive 1. Okay, that's mathematically, by our rule, why it's that way. Okay, let's look at another one. 11 plus 10. What's the answer to that?
11.
Thank you. I didn't fix to say, so you've forgotten everything you've done since first grade. That's 21. Okay? Do this one on your own. You have negative 16, or positive 16 plus negative 9. Do it, do it on your own. Yeah, but does Brandon have one? Are you chewing on gum, Brandon? Okay, who has an answer? Raise your hand. Drew, what did you get? 7. That is correct. It is a positive 7. Once again, visualize in your mind that you have 9 negatives. Over here you have now you can obviously tell that I have more positives than I have negatives. Okay? The reason that is positive 7 is because of this. You would take the absolute value because you have a positive and a negative sign. You take the absolute value of both numbers and you subtract it. 16 minus 9, that is 7. The more I have of the positives, so that means my answer is a positive 7. Okay? Now, let's look at a little bit more difficult one because they want you to fill in the missing number. Now, if, as we stated, if a negative and a positive cancel each other out, okay, that means that I have 10 negative signs over here. Well, it equals 2 positive signs. So for me to get from 10 negatives to 2 positives, okay, how many positive signs would I have to have in the box? 12. So the answer to this is positive 12 because that's the only way that we can have, because these would cancel there. Whoops, that's wrong. I've got to do pluses. Okay, so these pluses and these minuses cancel. Same thing here, leaving me with the 2 positives that are left over there. Jesse, do you have permission to talk? Then don't. All right, look at this one. Okay, so we have the box. Emma. Oh, hi, that's Mark. Turn around, face front, please. Now, Zach, that's Mark. Now, you have 8 negative signs. So we have 8 negative signs. Okay. And over here we have a total of 10 negative signs. Okay, so I have 8 negative signs here, so I need 2 more negative signs to make a total of 10. So that would be negative 2 inside the box. Okay? All right, so that's a good way to look at it. Now, last one of these. Oops, negative, excuse me. So I have negative 5, and I have in the box, and then over here I have negative 18. So if I have negative 5, okay, I have 5 negatives that equal 18 negatives. So obviously I need a lot more negatives to get from negative 5 negatives to 18 negatives. So how many negatives do I have to put with my 5 negatives to get up to 18 negatives? Drew. So I got to have negative 13. I got to have 13 negative signs to put with 5 negative signs to get a total of 18 negative signs. And so your answer, obviously, on those two are those two numbers. Okay? All right. Your homework, which we still got about 13 minutes left in class. You have 11.4. Three through 38. Hey, there's 48 of them. I can give you those. We can go 1 through 48 if you prefer. Okay. Then zip it, and get to work.